a problem with the title. That was the issue.
And do not allow us.
Yeah.
That one is. All those are fine.
The next one was, that was fine. It was the other one. This is the one they had an issue with. So
The no DNA.
just put at the scene.
I don't, if you put lack, hers was not accurate, actually.
Of the crime though?
They're gonna hear testimony. Swab, looking and checking.
Oh,
underwear.
okay. You're
We have-
right, but that's not from this. I guess we're talking about the murder itself. I think that's maybe where he's
Well,
talking
yeah,
about
I know
this
what you are
murder
saying.
scene.
You're saying.
There's no
no
DNA.
scene or the scene.
Right,
But
right.
like our view is.
How's that
part of
physical
this.
evidence of the murder, lack of DNA?
See, even physical evidence where it's some argument, you want to say that.
Okay. And then,
Because he does say, that's the gun I used, I went shooting with it the next day, and there it is. His physical.
okay, so
If
you have
wanna
a
say
problem,
it, That's up to you,
you
that's
have-
not inappropriate.
you have a lot issue with the gun, right?
That's all argument. You can say something like, no gun found at a scene, something, but that's, I'm not even sure.
But yeah, you need to put something about the scene because that's really that's what you're saying.
But no
That's what you're actually
scene or
saying. So
So there is a gun. We are gonna say that is
Yeah, I get it.
a
And,
scene of alleged scene. Or alleging. What is it?
okay,
That's a fair comment.
State's version will have,
That's argument. Something like that. Argument.
just delete it.
You say something. Yeah, this case is the evidence was at the station. If you begin to have them, that.
huh?
You're fine. Just click here. There you go.
Yeah, but
It's fine how it is. It doesn't have it there when you go to it.
focus on the testimony.
I don't think they had anything about that. Well,
Well, the one
wait,
that
the early,
failed
the
to
early. So,
failed to
all of it. He may have done it, but when I asked him in depo, that was it.
You don't have a problem with it saying thoroughly investigate?
I mean, we're gonna say.
All right, so you want,
That's the Williams Rule stuff that they said they're not bringing up. You have to address it if you did, so it's up to you how you want to deal with it. You didn't want to leave it hanging out there and we didn't say anything.
the evidence and testimony, the testimony of the father.
You can put the evidence and testimony questions. What to say.
How about that?
Okay. Okay, fine.
The rest
I'll
was fine, the rest was fine.
Now, where was the one that you wanted me to do a copy from?
Yeah, so go to the, that's at the top. It's the one where you break down, no, the reasonable doubt one. And this, he wants you to add here, oh, you have 2 dots there.
Okay.
You wanted to, no, it wasn't that far down. It was the, back up to the instruction. It's this one, it's the long one. He wants you to add this last sentence. Have reasonable doubt. Yeah, so, no, but delete the extra thing first. You have it twice, so just have reasonable doubt. Delete that first sentence and just keep the, no, not that one. Delete the first sentence. A period. And leave it small too. And you don't even have to say that. There it is.
Is there anything else?
Did you change roll to roll?
Yes.
Okay. You can stay out here. Doesn't matter. He's not here anyway, so.
I need the thumb drive to save it. At least he can't blame us for this. You know? It's not saving.
Did you not save it? You said it wasn't on here?
It's not saving. I have to do it again.
Wait, you exited out of it and it didn't save?
Didn't save.
You have autosave off. Could say autosave on.
Wants to go to OneDrive. Where's the thing that I have to?
Let me do it, I'm faster.
Sorry.
It's okay. Uh-oh. All of that was fine, right?
Yep.
Physical evidence of, is that what he said? I feel like it was different than that. Something like that?
Yep. Lack of DNA. No gun found at the murder scene. Or at the alleged murder scene.
You wanted us to ask this? Say, properly.
I just took out question. I put
In question. That was all fine.
then the question everything on the next one.
I think that was fine. Oh, you meant the top part.
Yes.
Just put questions.
Questioning testimony.
Oh, that was better than that. Just could not see. That's better than the way it was, I guess. Actually, you know what? Let me undo that. Size of this, that's the problem. There we go. Over slightly. Getting cut off on the edge. I think that was it. Okay, save. It's saved, right? Where is the save though?
Hit file. Save as. Then browse. Save it to the D drive. Scroll down.
Here? Oh, down.
And then I was going to say save it to this computer too, into his file.
Okay.
Run into that again. Browse. Scroll up to the top.
Over here, Johnathan Quiles.
Scroll up to the top. Desktop. Clients. Have it backed up onto another drive. Felony. Was. Not penalty.
Oh, it was saved to the general, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Okay, hey Stacy, before we get going. make sure this works actually. It doesn't work. If you were planning to use it, it doesn't work.
Just trying to make sure it works. Hey, they finally got it. That's classic.
Hey, Stacy, do you have a second now?
That person's not available.
All rise. The Fourth Judicial Circuit Court Division, CRI, and for Duval County, Florida is now in session. Their Honorable Judge Anthony Snell presiding. No cell phones, no talking. You may be seated.
Morning, everybody. Let's go on the record. 19 CF 7518, State v. Johnathan Quiles. I do have counsel with the state defense and Mr. Quiles present. Let's handle the evidence that has been agreed to formally move it into evidence for purposes of the trial. State what numbers are we talking about so they can be labeled appropriately and actually moved into evidence with the clerk's office.
Yes, sir, Your Honor, it's quite lengthy. I'll walk through the record. Your Honor, evidence, State's Exhibit Number 1 is a disc accompanying several photographs up to 39.
How about we just go, you have states what, number 1 through what?
Yes, sir, they are photographs of the Otis landfill search, day 1 of the search.
No, just give me the total number. What's been stipulated to states 1 through what?
Your Honor, it states Exhibit 1, and then each photograph is 1A.
No, you're not following. What numbers total do we have stipulated to? 1
Oh.
through what? 112?
Yes, sir.
50, what?
I'll give you the last number. 66.
Okay, states through 1 through 66. And the defense has stipulated to states 1 through 66 being admitted into evidence. Is that accurate?
It is.
Okay. And so feel free to refer to as such throughout the trial. If we need to put it on the record more specifically later on, we will. But for purposes of right now, it's clear states 1 through state 66 have been admitted into evidence via stipulation of the parties.
Yes, sir, and for our record, yesterday we spent some time marking each and every exhibit. It is before the court. We have the PowerPoints loaded up for efficiency purposes, so everything's been marked, pre-marked.
Okay. Anything else we need to handle before the jury comes out? First from the state.
Very briefly, Judge, for privacy concerns, I just want to put on the record, no names, but the state's first witness had a death last night that was very close to, I'll just say him or her, at 3 a.m. That particular witness is extremely distraught this morning. I have met with her or him, and that witness is having a difficult time maintaining composure. So for purposes of keeping our record clean with respect to misleading the jury that he or she is upset over the case, we've elected to move that witness till tomorrow. He or she is in agreement with that and feels like they'll be in a much better position. That particular witness learned this about the 7 a.m. hour and was in my office at 8:15. So our position is, one, we told the court yesterday we're trying to hit about 14 witnesses. That will drop by 1 today. Just to advise the court for scheduling purposes, but most importantly for purposes of the trial, we didn't want a witness testifying, which with what I saw were constant tears. So we've elected to move her till tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else we need to handle from the state's perspective?
No, sir, thank you.
Defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, let's bring the jury out, please. Members of the jury, if you can stand for me one last time, the clerk will swear you in.
Please raise your right hands. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that you will well and truly try the issues between the state of Florida and the defendant, Johnathan Quiles, and render a true verdict according to the law and the evidence, so help you God?
Yes.
You guys may have a seat. Members of the jury, thank you for your patience this morning with us with a few logistical issues. I have some instructions to read for you before we formally begin. You have now been selected and sworn as the jury to try the case of the state of Florida versus Johnathan Quiles. This is a criminal case, and Mr. Quiles is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of sexual battery. The definition of the elements of those crimes charged will be explained to you later. It is your solemn responsibility to determine if the state has proved its accusation beyond a reasonable doubt against Mr. Quiles. Your verdict must be based solely on the evidence or lack of evidence and the law. The indictment is not evidence. It is not to be considered by you as proof of any guilt. And I read that indictment to you guys on Monday. It is the judge's responsibility to decide which laws apply to this case and to explain those laws to you. It is your responsibility to decide what the facts of this case may be and to apply the law to those facts. Thus, the province of the jury and the province of the court are well defined, and they do not overlap. This is one of the fundamental principles of our system of justice. Before proceeding further, it is helpful if you understand how a trial is conducted. At the beginning of the trial, the attorneys will have an opportunity, if they wish, to make an opening statement. The opening statement gives the attorneys a chance to tell you what evidence they believe will be presented during the trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. Following the opening statements, witnesses will be called to testify under oath. They will be examined and cross-examined by the attorneys. Documents and other exhibits also may be produced as evidence. After the evidence has been presented, the attorneys will have the opportunity to make their final argument. Following the arguments by the attorneys, the court will instruct you on the law applicable to this case. After the instructions are given, you will then retire to consider your verdict. You should not form any definite or fixed opinion on the merits of the case until you have heard all the evidence, the argument of the lawyers, and the instructions on the law by the judge. Until that time, you should not discuss the case among yourselves. During the course of the trial, the court may take breaks, during which you are permitted to separate and go about your personal affairs. During these breaks, you will not discuss the case with anyone, nor permit anyone to say anything to you or in your presence about the case. If anyone attempts to say anything to you in your presence about the case, please tell that person that you're on the jury trying the case and ask the person to stop. If the person persists, leave that person at once and immediately report the matter to the bailiff, who will advise me. The case must be tried by you only on the evidence presented during the trial in your presence and in the presence of the defendant, the attorneys, and myself. Jurors must not conduct any investigation of their own. This includes reading newspapers, watching television, or using a computer, cell phone, internet, any electronic device, or any other means at all to get information related to this case or the people and places involved in this case. This applies whether you are in the courthouse, at home, or anywhere else. You must not visit places mentioned in the trial or use the internet to look at maps or pictures to see any place discussed during the trial. Jurors must not have discussions of any sort with friends or family members about the case or the people and places involved. Therefore, do not let even the closest family members make comments to you or ask questions about the trial. In this age of electronic communication, I want to stress again that just as you must not talk about this case face-to-face, you must not talk about it by using an electronic device. In every criminal proceeding, a defendant has the absolute right to remain silent. At no time is it the duty of a defendant to prove his innocence. From the exercise of a defendant's right to remain silent, a jury is not permitted to draw any inference of guilt, and the fact that a defendant did not take the witness stand must not influence your verdict in any manner whatsoever. The attorneys are trained in the rules of evidence and trial procedure, and it is their duty to make all objections they feel are proper. When an objection is made, you should not speculate on the reason why it is made. Likewise, when an objection is sustained or upheld by me, you must not speculate on what might have occurred had the objection not been sustained, nor what a witness might have said had the witness been permitted to answer. If you would like to take notes during the trial, you may do so. On the other hand, of course, you are not required to take notes if you do not want to. That's left up to you individually. You are provided with a notepad and pen for use if you wish to take notes. Any notes you take are for your personal use. However, you are not allowed to take them with you from the courtroom. During breaks, the bailiffs will take possession of your notes and will return them to you when we reconvene. After you have completed your deliberations, the bailiff will deliver your notes to me, and they will be destroyed. No one will ever read your notes. If you take notes, do not get so involved in note-taking that you become distracted from the proceedings. Your notes should be used only as aids to your memory. Whether or not you take notes, you should rely on your memory of the evidence, and you should not be unduly influenced by the notes of other jurors. Notes are not entitled to any greater weight than each juror's memory of the evidence. What I would ask that you do is write your initials on the front page, like we talked about yesterday, then start taking notes on the second page. With that said, we're going to begin with opening statements. And State, you have the floor.
Okay, please, the court.
Yes, ma'am.
The girl might be pregnant. I can't lose my family if she has the baby. I have to get rid of the body. What was her name? Iyana. She was 16. She was pregnant. 5 months. Talked niece Iyana into running away. Planned. Been telling her family doesn't love her. Had her come to my job, Ace Pick Apart, off of North Main Street. Why your job? The dumpster's at my job. I control what gets dumped. Did you kill her one day and dump her body the next? Yeah. They're going to give me the needle. Why? 1, premeditated murder. 2, young adult with an unborn child. 5 months. They consider that too. Did you shoot her? Did you shoot her in the head? No. Not head. Heart. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, those statements you will hear not only from the defendant's voice or through his own biological brother, Johnathan Quiles. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The state of Florida, Mr. Skinner and myself, my co-counsel, we appreciate the time and attention that you all have given already this week. And we appreciate the time and attention that you all will give for the remaining of the trial this week and next week. As you had heard during jury selection, the state has 2 things to prove. Was a crime committed, and was the defendant the one who committed the crime? And in this case, there's an indictment for 3 crimes that we're going to ask you all to consider. First-degree premeditated murder of IS, first-degree premeditated murder of her unborn child, and sexual battery. There will be material facts that Your Honor will instruct upon, and then you, as the fact finders, will weigh that evidence presented during the trial of whether or not the state of Florida has met that burden beyond a reasonable doubt to all of those material facts. Now, we're about to go through a little synopsis because opening statements are not evidence. They are what we believe the evidence will show throughout the pendency of this case. And there's going to be several witnesses called and also many items of physical evidence. I like to use the analogy of you're starting off with a puzzle. That's where we're at today. We just purchased it at the store. We got the box. We're dumping out the pieces. We're laying it on the table. And one by one, state submits to you. Each piece will start to come into place, and then by end of the trial, that puzzle will be completed. So in thinking about, again, why we're here today, on December 19th, 2018, I'm going to say her name one time, but then I'm going to be using her initials. But Iyana Sawyer was 16 years old. She was 5 months pregnant. She was a high school student at Terry Parker. She was in the 10th grade. She went to school that day. However, she left school early. You will see video surveillance. The last time her family knew her to be alive, when she walked off of that school lot at approximately 11 a.m. For several hours, it was unknown that IS had left school. It was not known until you will hear she has a sister by the name, and I'll say her name one time, Iyana Sawyer. They were only 1 year apart. They went to the same school. They were set to ride the bus home that afternoon. The IS was not on that bus, and then that's what started the events of why we're here today. So I'm going to bring you back in time just a moment. You are going to hear some evidence from March of 2018. You are going to hear that IS had a sexual relationship with a neighbor. IS, you will hear, was 15 at the time. You will also hear that the neighbor, his name was Kamar Humphrey, and that he was 20 years old at the time. The mom of IS and SS, you will also hear from, Kimberly Mobley. She found out, she reported it to police, and her 15-year-old daughter, IS, went through a sexual assault examination. That examination was sent to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. You're going to hear from an FDLE analyst by the name of Nicholas Kutu. He is the one that analyzed the various items in this case involving potential DNA evidence. He processed that case. He found the DNA, you will hear, of Kamar Humphrey. However, what you're also going to hear from that March 2018 sexual assault kit was another male's DNA that was found on the crotch interior area of her panties. IS comes back to the defendant. His DNA. Because you are going to hear the relationship between the defendant and IS is uncle and niece. The defendant at the time in 2018 was married to IS's aunt, Naomi Mobley. So it was an uncle by marriage. And at the time, back in 2018, the defendant was at the age of 32 and 33 based upon his birth date in April. However, when these results did not come right away in March, so it was unknown to the family at this time into law enforcement that the defendant's DNA was there on a 15-year-old's panties of her uncle who was in his early 30s. Again, fast forwarding, July of 2018. It is learned that this is when IS becomes pregnant. This, though, was not learned by Kimberly Mobley till December 3rd of 2018. Her daughter was already approximately 5 months pregnant. Kimberly Mobley is going to tell you how her daughter was able to keep this from her. You're going to hear that she was tall, 5'8", however, she was quite thin. And it was, of course, the fall, getting to the winter time frame, and she was wearing hoodies. However, you're going to hear from Nancy Ware, who is the paternal grandmother of IS. And there's a lot of names, a lot of dates. Again, this will be through the course, and we'll tie it up at the end during closing arguments. Nancy Ware encouraged IS to tell her mother, Kimberly Mobley, about the pregnancy. So she finally tells her. However, IS will not say to her mother who the father is. So Kimberly Mobley takes her daughter after learning on December 3rd that her 16-year-old daughter is pregnant. Obviously, at the time of conception, she was 15, because you're going to hear that IS's birth date was September the 6th, 2002. So in July of 2018, she would have been 15. By the time December 2018, she was 16. Kimberly Mobley sets up her first appointment to find out about the pregnancy. You are going to hear from Dr. Amanda Atchu. She is the doctor that had that appointment, and that appointment was on December the 13th of 2018. So 10 days after learning. Dr. Atchu is going to tell you all that she was approximately 22 and a half weeks pregnant. She also sent off to find out the gender, which was followed through, as Kimberly Mobley also, she was there present at all of the appointments. And it was determined that she was going to have a girl. And in fact, you are going to hear that the family had already named the unborn child of IS. Her name was going to be...
Objection, Your Honor. Legal basis? Speculation and inflaming the jury. Overruled.
May it please the court. That her name was going to be Hazel Michelle. And that is important, ladies and gentlemen, because that's count 2. We are alleging that the defendant killed an unborn child. And you're going to hear that the approximate birth date, due date, was April the 12th of 2019. Then, thinking about that time frame in December, confirmation of pregnancy on December 13th, it's spreading now through the family of Kimberly Mobley, because you're going to hear Kimberly Mobley has a large family. She has 4 sisters. She has a brother. And of course, you've already heard that one of her sisters, Naomi, was married at the time to the defendant. So the news of IS being pregnant is now through the family. It is now learned. Kimberly Mobley is trying to find out who the father is. She will not disclose. So in thinking about that, you're also going to hear from Nancy Ware. Again, that is the paternal grandmother. You are going to hear from Johnathan Mobley, Margie Mobley, in regards to the family dynamic, in regards to the communication aspect, because Kimberly Mobley is going to tell you all that when she did the math, of December 13th, back the 22 and a half weeks, it was approximately the time frame of July 7th weekend. And Kimberly Mobley is going to tell you that weekend was of an important weekend because that is the grandmother's birthday. Mother of Kimberly Mobley, grandmother of IS. And that Kimberly Mobley is going to tell you all that that time frame after that party, that her daughter had went and stayed at the defendant's house. That's where she put the math back. Because what you're also going to hear is that Naomi Mobley and the defendant, they had a daughter at the time. Her name was Nia. And you're also going to hear that Naomi was the breadwinner. She's the one that had the full-time job. Now, the defendant worked. Please, I'm not trying to say that he didn't. But she had the full-time job that kept her out of the house quite a bit. So, IS and ISS, while their mother, Kimberly Mobley, would be at work, they would go often to the home of the defendant. You're going to hear that IS was a creature of habit. She would go to school. She would come home. Sometimes she would go to her father, Willie Sawyer's house. You will hear from him as well. He's also here locally in the area. But mainly school, home, and the defendant's home. The defendant would be watching over them while their aunt and their mom was at work. And then they would also help with the young daughter of the defendant, their baby cousin. And you're going to hear that this was throughout a period of time. Then you're also going to hear that, though, from December 19th, 2018, no one has heard from her. Chick-fil-A, where she worked, you're going to hear she never picked up her last 2 checks. A teenager, right before Christmas, never picking up her paychecks. Her phone, when she left Terry Parker High School on December 19th, her phone shows you it's turned off. Never heard from again. Banking with Navy Federal Credit Union. No banking activity post December 19th, 2018. Submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear from the family, her inner circle, her world. You're going to hear from her friends that she's known. She had a close-knit group of friends. You're going to hear from some of them. Nobody in this 16-year-old's circle, you will hear that no one has heard from her since December 19, 2018. So you're going to hear that missing persons started investigating this case on December the 21st, 2 days later. And then you're going to hear shortly thereafter, it went to homicide. And you're going to hear from Detective Billy Abbott. He was the one assigned to the case. But ladies and gentlemen, fast forwarding, this case, you were going to hear broke open because the defendant's biological brother called Jacksonville Sheriff's Office on January the 8th, 2019. You were going to hear from Joseph Quiles, his biological brother who lives in New York. Joseph Quiles called to tell JSO that his brother, the defendant, called him back in December 19th or 20th. He said he couldn't remember the exact date, and told him that the girl might be pregnant. I cannot lose my family. If she has the baby, I have to get rid of the body. Joseph Quiles is going to tell you that the defendant was having an inappropriate sexual relationship with his underage niece. He thought the baby could be his. The family was pressuring for the identity of the father, asked about an abortion. The family did not want an abortion. The pressure is on. The defendant has her come to his work because he works at Ace Pick-a-Part, and you're going to see some photographs to kind of get an understanding. It is a large area off of North Main Street where people can come and get parts. They crush vehicles, have tires. Yes, you're going to hear there's video surveillance there, and you're going to see some of it. But guess what? The defendant knows that it doesn't capture everywhere. There are areas for the public, and there are areas just for employee personnel. The defendant says, I have her come to my work. I have her come to back area where no one can see her. This is what he tells Joseph Quiles. I submit you're going to hear. He tried to strangle her, but said he couldn't stomach it, so he shot her. Even when asked, well, how did no one hear that shot? Well, it's loud, all the machinery. Well, what did you do with your body? Joseph Quiles, again, does not know about Ace Pick-a-Part at all, ladies and gentlemen. Stated that his brother told him, I submit to you're going to hear, he put her body in a container, a dumpster that was being collected. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear, on December 20th, 2018, a dumpster was collected. That dumpster then was tracked to the Otis landfill. And you're going to hear that the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office spent 16 tirelessly days there. However, it was a disadvantage already. The defendant said he killed her on or about between that 19th and the 20th. And when I say on or about, because, ladies and gentlemen, not only I submit you will hear from Joseph Quiles, you are going to hear that the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office homicide detectives put a wire on Morris McClendon. And George Jackson was present. And on the wire, that's also where I talked about those statements that I first started out with. And then the defense even asked in the wire, submit to you, well, what if something happens with that container? The defendant talks about, well, I've got the elements to my advantage. It's been raining. And you will even see on the Ace video Pick-a-Part, it's raining. You'll see the defendant. He's going to be in a rain suit. Bright neon, pretty easy to pick out. I submit to you. Again, make your own assumptions later. It's raining. It's the holiday time. And by the time detectives find out on the 8th, there's already been a couple of weeks. And I submit to you common sense, and you will hear from testimony, that garbage is piling up at that landfill. And by the time Jacksonville Sheriff's Office can get there and start, it's January 15th. Several days, couple weeks later. And you're going to hear, ladies and gentlemen, we own it. We did not find IS. However, there were items found at the landfill. Because what you're also going to hear is that IS liked the brand Victoria's Secret, and that she left with several items of her Victoria's Secret brand that she had. And there are a couple things that the family will point out, Kimberly Mobley and Iyana Sawyer, that is in fact IS's. But you're also, and you're going to hear about the firearm. The defendant talks about, I used my 9mm firearm. You're going to hear, I submit to you, you'll hear that in the wire. And he states, And so the same day, I also had to go and, fire the gun just in case. So Jacksonville Sheriff's Office goes to the gun gallery, and lo and behold, on 12/20/2018, the defendant came and shot his 9mm firearm. That 9mm firearm was taken, and it is in custody, and you all will see that during this case. Another thing, too, to think about is you are going to hear that Don Quay and parsley. And I submit parsley is a common thing that most people hear about for cooking, but a lot of people have not necessarily heard about Don Quay. We're going to hear that if a woman takes those two items, you're going to hear from Dr. Thomas. She also did the sexual assault examination of IS back in March of 2018. You are going to hear that those two items combined can make a woman have a miscarriage. And you are going to hear from SS that that's what was given to IS and SS in regards to the Don Quay and the parsley for IS to have a miscarriage. Because you're going to hear that there was a code name for the defendant. The code name for the defendant was Jose. That's how IS would refer to the romantic partner in her life, as Jose. But SS is going to tell you that Jose was in fact the defendant. Because when you even hear from IS's friends, they only knew the person to be Jose. They never knew who the person was either. This was a deep, guarded secret. But again, it was her uncle. And so what we're going to find out from those two items, they are found in the bedroom because IS and SS shared a bedroom. Now, what we're also going to learn, though, those two items were purchased on the defendant's Amazon account from their Wells Fargo bank account, was paid for in October of 2017. So again, going back to linking those items to the defendant. Now, the defendant talks about, I submit to you all, and the wire as well, about having an inappropriate sexual relationship with the defendant. In fact, at one point, even in the wire, I submit, you're going to hear, they ask, well, how did you manage to have sex with your wife around? And then the defendant's response, I submit that you will hear, just random spots, you know what I'm saying. Go to the store, in the car. And I submit to you this was going on during this 2018 year. Because there's another thing you're going to hear from SS. The defendant liked to talk to SS and IS on Snapchat. Not regular texting, not regular phone, but Snapchat. And SS is going to tell you the reason why is because Snapchat messages disappear. However, IS had more than one Snapchat account. She had XS Iyana, Iyana was a nickname of her first name, and then she had Princess 446. And ladies and gentlemen, submit to you that the defendant was using Princess 446 so nobody would know. And I submit to you, you're going to see these messages. And these messages are from 2018. And they show about the horrific sexual relationship the defendant was having with his niece. There will be indicators in those messages that it's clearly the defendant. You're going to hear about his wife, your mother, you're 16, you're going to go to college, can't believe you're pregnant, even telling her, I'll give you another child. So there's a lot, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously thinking about all of this too, you're going to hear from another inmate as well that says the defendant confessed to him. You're also going to hear that the defendant stated he never left work that day on December 19, 2018. However, it's going to be refuted, I submit you all. One, Ace video. The defendant leaves Ace at approximately 11:15 a.m. and is gone for about an hour and 15 minutes. And the time the IS leaves Terry Parker is about 11 a.m. And then you're also going to see that the defendant's timesheet also says that he never left that day. He told police that he never left work that day. But again, the physical evidence will refute that. So ladies and gentlemen, after you hear all the evidence, and again, it's going to be a lot, think about the dates, thinking about how each item, each person is bringing those puzzles to make that grand picture so we know what we're finally getting to. That defendant, again, with that statement of couldn't have her have the baby, because you're also going to hear that all of defendant's children look just like him. He knew he couldn't take that risk. So the defendant, I submit to you after all the evidence, it will show that the defendant had an inappropriate sexual relationship with his 15 and 16-year-old niece, and that familial custodial relationship of him being the uncle, and that when she got pregnant, she wasn't having an abortion, and he knew the consequences of his actions. It was at that time to get rid of the evidence. However, thankfully, based upon the evidence we'll present, coupled with the defendant's own statements, his own words, we submit, we are confident that the state of Florida has proved each count beyond a reasonable doubt, and we will ask each of you to render a verdict of guilty to all counts. Thank you.
Defense, you may inquire, you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just right there. Thank you, sir. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Robert Davis. Myself, along with Christine Michelle, represent Johnathan Quiles in this matter. As stated, the state, Mr. Skinner, Ms. French, they represent the state. These are great people that have a very tough job. But that does not mean that they don't have to meet their burden. Burden is they have to prove that Mr. Quiles is the one that committed this crime. That crime, as you can see, is that of premeditated first-degree murder. They have to prove that Mr. Quiles is the, in fact, person who killed, and I'll say it just once, Iyana Sawyer and her unborn child. They have to prove that. And they also have to prove that he premeditated it and did it in such a way to make sure, as the state said, that this was a heinous crime. I submit to you, as you hear the testimony over the next week, week and a half, the state will not be able to meet that burden. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the trier of fact. You are going to be hearing the testimony. You will be determining who's telling the truth. You will be determining who's making assumptions and who is not. Now, next one, Kristen. The state has also proved the issue or the charge of sexual battery. They are saying that Johnathan Quiles did in fact have sex with his niece, IS. That's the state's version. That is what they are saying. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that at the end of the day, they will not be able to meet that burden. After you hear all the testimony, they will not be able to prove that Johnathan Quiles is in fact the father of the unborn child. There will be speculation that he is. There will be assumptions that he is. And we believe that the testimony you're going to hear by the family, as the state said, they're going to come in here, this is a big family, they're, for the most part, a fairly tight-knit group. But they will be assuming that based on that July weekend and thereabouts in that short time frame, they will be assuming that Johnathan Quiles is the one that fathered that child. There will be no direct evidence to say that he did. You will not hear it. You will hear from SS, who says she believes that he's the father. You're going to hear from Kimberly Mobley, the mother of IS. She believes that he's the father. But again, there will be no direct evidence. There will be no DNA to say he's the father. There will be no corroboration of that other than they believe he did it. Go ahead. The state must prove that Johnathan Quiles was in fact the person that killed IS. Again, they have to prove this. And they have to prove it in such a manner that it is beyond a reasonable doubt that Johnathan Quiles is the one that did it. The state is going to bring in detectives, various witnesses, all kinds of people from throughout the county over a very lengthy investigation. The state clearly said it. They don't have a body. We believe that you are going to hear that they're assuming that the scene is Ace Pick-a-Part, where Mr. Quiles worked. You will hear the testimony that, yes, IS left Terry Parker High School and she was last seen around 11 o'clock on December the 18th. But they cannot say for certain that she went to Ace Pick-a-Part where Mr. Quiles worked. They're going to show you these videos. You're going to see it. What you're not going to see is IS at Ace Pick-a-Part. What you're not going to see is any blood of a crime scene where he's alleged to have murdered her there. What you're not going to see is an actual killing and the use of a gun to kill IS, as the state has alleged. You're not going to see it. Therefore, we believe they cannot meet their burden of premeditated murder. And therefore, we believe there will be reasonable doubt. But again, Mr. Quiles has entered a plea of not guilty in this case. Mr. Quiles sits there with us at this table, and he is innocent of any and all crimes until they can prove otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe after you hear all of this, they cannot meet that burden. During jury selection, we went over this time and time and time again. Mr. Quiles doesn't have to prove anything. Not one thing. The state, Mr. Skinner and Ms. French are the ones that have to prove it. And the person and the people they have to prove it to is you, ladies and gentlemen. You are the trier of fact. You are the ones that have to be the ones to listen to the evidence and listen to the testimony and view the evidence. And the state has to prove to you that a crime was committed. And we submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, they can't meet that burden. Again, we brought up during jury selection and questioning as to reasonable doubt. And that should be in front of you there on the screen. Reasonable doubt is that is speculative, imaginary, or a forced doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, the state is going to present to you over the next week, week and a half, a voluminous amount of evidence. Please pay attention to all of this. Pay attention to their timeline. We believe that their own timeline isn't going to fit. Why is that? We believe you're going to hear testimony that she was actually seen on the day of and after when the state is alleging she's dead. That is reasonable doubt. They're saying she's dead, and people are saying they see her and are calling into the police to say that they've seen her. As the state has said, this started off as a runaway case. She was deemed a runaway and missing for a substantial period of time, more than a week, during the holidays. It isn't until approximately 3 weeks, close to a month, before they make a determination to go and search the Otis landfill. And we believe the testimony you're going to hear is after 3 weeks of searching, couldn't find the body. You are going to see items from Victoria's Secret that is said to have been found there. You're going to hear testimony that they believe that these items belong to IS. Ladies and gentlemen, these items that are found, that are Victoria's Secret, are sold in every Victoria's Secret store throughout the United States. if not the world. And we don't believe the state can actually prove that the items that they're going to show you, they believe are ISs, but they cannot prove for a fact that they are ISs. Again, ladies and gentlemen, that is reasonable doubt. It's speculative. You're going to hear from law enforcement witnesses. You were asked about all of this during voir dire. The fact that a witness is employed by law enforcement, he's just another witness. He's no better, no worse than anybody else that's going to take this stand. And you, ladies and gentlemen, will determine the truthfulness, the veracity, and the weight of the evidence and the testimony that they are going to be giving to you. They are no better, no worse than any other witness that takes a stand. They are human beings and they make mistakes just like everybody else. Now, this was brought up to you again during voir dire. The fact that if the defendant does not testify, meaning Mr. Quiles, if the defendant exercises his fundamental right to not testify, you cannot view this in any way, shape, or form as an admission of guilt. He has an absolute right to sit there and not say a word. Again, can't emphasize this enough. They have the burden. They must prove he committed a crime. And ladies and gentlemen, you of the jury should not ever be concerned that he doesn't make a statement, or even if he doesn't present any evidence. We live in the greatest country in the world, and I say that because in other countries throughout the world, you have to profess your innocence. We here in the United States don't. We don't have to prove anything. The state must prove that he's committed a crime. In other countries, that isn't so. You have to stand up and profess your innocence and say, I didn't do it. You don't have to do that here. They have to prove it. And we submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, again, they cannot meet that burden in this case. You will be able to evaluate the witnesses, the capacity and the opportunity of the witness to observe, whether it's the offender on video or whatever. At the time of the observation, the conditions at the time, whether it was day, night, raining, and the lighting in the distance. This is going to be critical in this. You are also going to be listening to a lawyer. Look at and listen to the fact of these people that they're presenting. They're inmates. Those inmates are looking to gain favor by testifying against Mr. Quiles in an effort to get a reduction in whatever case they have going on. And you are going to hear from them when the state calls them. And you're going to hear what they have to gain by giving their testimony. Please pay close attention to that, because they have something to gain. The state wants you to use your common sense. Absolutely. Use your common sense. But when you use your common sense, that doesn't mean that you check at the door and say, okay, just because I'm using my common sense, that relieves them of their burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Quiles has committed a crime. Okay. Pay attention to everything in this case. Hold the state to their burden beyond a reasonable doubt. Listen to the testimony. You're going to watch videos, you're going to listen to testimonies, listen to the recordings, and make the state prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Some of the things you're not going to see in this case. The state will not be able to show you the body of IS, or that she's dead, and no remains were ever found. You are not going to see an actual crime scene at A's pick-apart, as the state is alleging. She was murdered there. You are going to hear from their testimony, into which they cannot say, after searching A's pick-apart multiple times, you're going to hear that they went there with cadaver dogs. Never found a body. Cadaver dogs gave hits, but remember, this is a place where vehicles are taken after multiple crashes. And people have been hurt in crashes or whatever. But they cannot say IS was actually killed at A's pick-apart. They want you to believe it, but they can't prove it. You are not going to see any blood at the scene that is related to IS. Again, you're not going to see any physical evidence that a murder actually occurred there. And there will be no physical evidence to prove as to the manner of how the state is alleging IS died. None. Again, no actual evidence, no physical evidence of a murder scene. There's no blood. There's going to be lack of DNA. Complete. The state is going to allege that the gun that our client, Mr. Quiles, owned is the murder weapon. But we submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, they have the burden to prove that he actually used that gun to kill her. The state's version of how the alleged murder happened cannot be confirmed in any way. Pay close attention to this. Pay attention to the facts, their timelines, and what they're presenting. The fact that you're going to hear testimony that Mr. Quiles left Ace Pick-apart for an hour around the same time that IS is alleged to have left Terry Parker High School and met up with him. Pay attention to the testimony, ladies and gentlemen. We don't believe the state can meet their burden to prove that they met. Because Terry Parker High School is a long way away from where we believe the evidence is going to show that Mr. Quiles went for work up to an auto parts store near the airport. There's a long way away. And how does IS, a 16-year-old who's on foot when she leaves school, get from Terry Parker High School to the airport? Multiple people see IS again. You're going to hear testimony as to this, that the state assumes she was killed, and they want you to believe that. But these witnesses are going to say she's seen after the time and date that they're alleging she's dead. That, ladies and gentlemen, will lead to reasonable doubt. The state will not be able to prove premeditated murder because they can't prove she's dead in the first place. Focus on the testimony. We believe you're going to hear from Kamar Humphrey and his relationship with IS. And the fact that he is the one that sexually battered her previously during February or March of 2018. We believe that when he takes the stand and testifies, that you're going to hear that he lied about where he was on the date IS went missing. And the police, we believe the testimony you're going to hear is the police failed to properly investigate him as a possible suspect. And they didn't look into it as close as they could have. They're human. They made a mistake. Police never confirmed his alibi. The use of IS's credit card will come into play on the date she goes missing. Because at the time they're saying she is with Johnathan Quiles, her card is being used in a completely different side of town. But the state wants you to believe that Johnathan Quiles has taken her somewhere else. And please, listen to the testimony that you're going to hear as to the area she is seen in on the date she goes missing, as well as where these other people see her after the fact. These will be critical elements, and we believe flaws in the state's case. There's going to be several things in evidence and testimony that you are going to hear that we believe are in question. That of Joseph Quiles. Yes, his own brother is going to come here. He's coming here from New York. You're going to hear from his own brother that these two have a very strained and complicated relationship, to put it mildly. Family dynamics always are. The state, as they said in their opening, says that Joseph Quiles says that Johnathan Quiles made all these statements about confessing to doing these things to IS. We believe that the testimony you're going to hear is Johnathan Quiles made statements, but his brother thought he was joking. We believe the testimony you're also going to hear is he doesn't believe his brother could even do it. He's not that type of guy. Not a violent person. He's a family man. Loves his family, believes in his family. You're going to hear from Damian Hatch. Damian Hatch is going to be called to testify as to this alleged conversation that occurred over at the jail. There are going to be several things that are stated. Pay attention to this testimony, ladies and gentlemen, because there's inconsistencies galore here. When you hear these inconsistencies, it will make you, we believe, question the truthfulness and veracity. You're also going to hear potentially from a couple of others that are jailhouse snitches, wires. But again, what is their motive? They're doing this to get something from the state so that they can get either a reduced sentence or gain favor with the state in their own case. You're going to hear, as the state said, about a DNA rape kit. Going to be that of Kamar Humphrey. In the crotch of IS's underwear. You're going to hear from FDLE as to that. Now, the state has alleged that Mr. Quiles' DNA is also there. We believe the testimony you're going to hear from FDLE is that Kamar Humphrey's DNA that is there is that of semen. The DNA of Mr. Quiles is not, or could not be confirmed to be semen. It's just a DNA transfer. State wants to use that as proof that they say Mr. Quiles had a sexual relationship. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear the testimony, Kamar Humphrey did, but there will be no evidence to prove that Johnathan Quiles actually had a sexual relationship with IS. Your role in this case as a juror is to listen to the evidence, evaluate those witnesses, again, their truthfulness, their veracity, and their accuracy. Pay attention to these inconsistencies. We can't emphasize this enough. Inconsistencies lead to reasonable doubt is what will lead to a not guilty verdict. Make sure that the evidence presented by the state actually applies to this case and is not there to inflame or reach to your emotions, which will lead to allegations and assumptions. Pay attention to the reasonable alternatives. That's where using your common sense, where the state says, you can go ahead and use your common sense. If A happened, B must have happened. Well, just because A happened doesn't always mean B happened. It could have led to C. Your job here is to weigh the evidence and determine, again, who's telling the truth and whether or not the state has met their burden. When questioning the evidence that the state presents, make sure you establish that a crime was actually committed here. And that the person that committed that crime was Johnathan Quiles. Again, we don't believe the state can meet that burden. When weighing the course of the evidence through the course of this case, we believe you will still question as to whether or not this gave rise to reasonable doubt. And that reasonable doubt, at the end of the case, you will have to find Mr. Quiles not guilty. Right? At the conclusion of the case, you will be given rules for deliberation. They're there on the screen in front of you, and these are very important. The case must be decided, as we stated multiple times during voir dire, only on the facts and evidence presented here in this courtroom. And the state must present those facts and evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and we don't believe they can. Reasonable doubt is, again, one that wavers, vacillate, or becomes speculative in nature. Remember what we say as lawyers? We're here to say this to give you a guidance of what we believe you're going to hear or not hear in this case. What we say is not evidence. What those witnesses say when they take the stand, that's the evidence you have to pay attention to. And that evidence, at the end of the day, will again lead you to a not guilty verdict in this case. Your feelings in this case should not be influenced by prejudice, bias, or sympathy. We believe you're going to hear from several witnesses that will be here to testify for that very purpose. Stick to the facts. And we believe the state will not be able to prove those facts. And at the conclusion, based on those facts, you will find Mr. Quiles not guilty because the state can't meet this burden of beyond a reasonable doubt to prove he committed a crime. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Members of the jury, it's 10:37. It's probably a good time to take our mid-morning break. Given the number of you, let's take 25 minutes. So let's come back out at I'll say 11 o'clock, but let's keep it to 11:05 or so. That's about 25 to 30 minutes, given the number of you guys. We'll go from there, then take our lunch break, and then kind of have all the same pattern that we did during the past few days as well. Please remember, do not discuss the case among yourselves or each other. Do not do any independent research, and you guys have a nice break. Are the juries outside our presence? You guys can have a seat. How many witnesses do you think we could get to the next hour, 15 or so before we take a lunch break? I'm asking simply just to have an idea of how to structure it.
Three or four, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'm going to go, if you think I'm going one too far, where we're going to stretch too far, I don't want to go past 12:30-ish. That's what we did the past few days. I know it's a later lunch, but it breaks up the afternoon for the jury. If you think I'm going to push past that, just give me a look, and I'll just take I'll just take the lunch break there. All right, see you guys about 11 o'clock, 11:05 or so.
Yes, sir.
Judge, could I ask a quick question before we?
Let's go back on the record. State v. Johnathan Quiles, 19 CF 7518. I have counsel for the state defense. Mr. Quiles, present. Yes, sir.
I discussed with the state as far as some of the witnesses that are upcoming. Rather than going back and forth, and we've got the binder with the actual transcripts if they're needed for cross-examination or even direct for refresh the recollection of, is it acceptable if we were to put that up off to the side in the stand so that if they need to refer to it, it's there rather than going back and forth, Your Honor?
State?
No objection.
Okay. If you give it to the staff, if you give it, that's fine. If you give it to the staff, they can probably accommodate it for you.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
That doesn't bother me.
We'll see.
Well, yeah.
Other than that, are we ready to bring the jury back in?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. I've got it.
Mr. Davis, you ready for the jury?
Absolutely, Your Honor, sorry.
Let's bring the jury back in.
All right, here we go. That's right. I'm glad.
Your Honor, the jury is re-entered in court.
You guys may have a seat. Members of the jury, welcome back. Hope you had a nice mid-morning break. We'll probably take a same lunch break like we did the past couple of days, depending on the flow of testimony, but I don't plan on being any later than it was the past few days. With that said, State, you may call your first witness.
Kimberly Mobley, Your Honor.
Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Ms. Mobley, good morning to you, ma'am. Just have a seat. Just watch your step as you come forward. If you need a glass of water or something, let us know. We'll certainly do our best to accommodate you. The only request I would make is that if there is an objection made at some point during your testimony, just let me rule on the objection before you start talking, okay? And you can adjust the microphone as you do necessary.
Can I have a cup of water, please?
Yes, can we get her a glass of water?
Thank you.
Certainly. And if you need a moment or anything, just take your time, okay?
Okay.
With that said, Ms. French, you may inquire. You're ready.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Kimberly Mobley.
And ma'am, can you spell your last name?
It's Mobley.
And where do you generally live?
In Arlington.
Is that here in Jacksonville?
It is Jacksonville, Florida.
And how long have you lived in the Jacksonville, Florida area?
38 years.
Would that be your whole life?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I'm in the medical field.
And how long have you been practicing in the medical field?
13, almost 14 years.
And ma'am, do you have children?
Yes,
How many children do you have?
I have 4.
And could you please tell me their initials, and if you could just tell the first 2 their date of birth and the second 2 just current ages, please.
Okay. The first 2 date of birth is September 6, 2002.
And can you give the initials of that child, ma'am?
Yes. IS.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to make sure that we don't speak at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, ma'am. It's all right. And your second child, ma'am?
SS, September 25th, 2003. And then September 17th, 2005.
And what's the initials of that child?
SG.
And is that a son?
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am. And you said you had a 4th child?
Yes. KM, May 11, 2009.
And up until recently, did all of your children live with you?
Yes.
When I say recently, I'm referring to your 3 youngest. Is that a yes? Okay. And is your oldest daughter, your second oldest daughter, SS, has she graduated high school?
Yes.
Now, are your 2 younger children still in school?
Yes.
Now, does IS and SS have the same father?
Yes, they do.
And what is his name, ma'am?
Willie Sawyer.
And could you spell his name, please, for the record?
Yes, it's WILLIE SAWYER.
And are you currently in a relationship with their father?
No.
And how long have you not been in a relationship with IS and SS's father?
Maybe like, I think, close to like 16 years, 17.
So the 2 of you ended your relationship early on after having SS?
Yes.
And does Mr. Willie Sawyer live here in the Duval County area?
Yes, he does.
Now, ma'am, do you have a big family?
Yes.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 4 sisters, a brother.
And could you tell us their names, please?
Yes, my brother is James Mobley. My older sister is Jametta Mobley. Then there's Margiela Mobley, Naomi Mobley, and Paula Mobley.
And could you just please spell Jametta for us?
Yes, it's JAMETTA.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And do all of your sisters live here in the North Florida area?
Yes. Oh, one.
When you say yeah, you can explain a little bit more if you need to.
Well, yes, one saying Yulee, I'm not sure what I could set her.
So would that be Nassau County?
Yes.
Okay, just north of us?
Yes.
Okay. And is that just one of your sisters?
It's Jametta and Margie.
Okay. Does Paula and Naomi live a little bit closer?
Yes.
Okay. And what is your mother's name?
Winella Haynes.
Can you spell her first name, please?
Yes, it's WINELLA.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Now, are you close to your sisters?
Yes.
Are you also close with any of their spouses or partners?
I would say yes, we're close.
And would that be obviously the relationship?
Family, yes.
Remember, make sure that we don't talk over each other.
Sorry.
It's okay, ma'am. I know it's hard. Now, back in 2018, was your sister Naomi Mobley married?
Yes.
And who was she married to?
Johnathan Quiles.
And do you recall approximately from today's time frame that you had become acquainted with a Johnathan Quiles?
You asking how many years?
Yes, ma'am.
If it's from today, maybe 10 years. I'm not sure.
But give or take almost a decade
Yes.
from today's time frame. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And is your sister still married to him today?
No.
Would you recognize this person, Johnathan Quiles, if you saw him again?
Yes.
Would you please take a moment and look about the courtroom to see if you recognize the person you know to be as Johnathan Quiles?
Yes.
And you just nodded your head. Do you see the person that you know to be Johnathan Quiles?
Yes.
Could you please identify that person, where, one, where they're located, and two, something that he is wearing?
Yes. He is sitting by Michelle at a table wearing a blue button-down shirt with his hair in a ponytail.
And is he wearing glasses?
Yes.
And Your Honor, let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
So reflected.
Now, back in 2018, did Naomi Mobley have any children?
Yes.
How many?
One, she had one at the time,
And was that a daughter or a son?
a daughter.
And was she quite young at the time?
Yes.
And were her initials NQ?
Yes.
Since 2018, has Naomi Mobley had another child?
Yes.
And was that a son?
Yes.
And was that son born in earlier 2019?
Yes.
And is the defendant the father?
Yes.
Now, I want to draw your attention to your oldest child, IS. Back in 2018, we'll talk about the fall time frame. Was she in school?
Yes.
Where was she attending?
She was attending Terry Parker High School.
What grade was she in?
She was in 10th.
How did she get to school normally?
She would ride the bus.
Now, your other daughter, SS, was she in middle school or high school back in the fall of 2018?
High school.
And what grade was SS in?
9th.
Was IS considered a homebody?
Yes.
And why is that?
She enjoyed being around family.
Where are the places, generally speaking, that IS would frequent?
To my house and my sister's house,
And when you say sister, you've got four.
Naomi house.
Now, were you working full-time back in 2018?
Yes.
And did Naomi Mobley help you when you were at work?
Yes.
Now, was Naomi Mobley the only one in her household that would help you with your children?
No, she wasn't.
And who else would assist?
Her husband, ex-husband, Johnathan.
Okay, the defendant that you've identified?
Yes.
Okay. And would that include all four of your children or a variation of your children?
Sometimes all four.
Were there occasions where just your two daughters would go over to the defendant's home?
Yes.
Now, did the defendant live in Naomi Mobley, your sister, did they live far from you?
I won't say too far, no.
Did they live at more than one location back in 2018?
I want to say it was just one location at 2018.
And do you remember where that was at?
It was off of 16th Street.
What about did they ever live at a location off of Trout River Road?
Yes.
Was that the second home they had lived in?
Yes, it was.
Now, did IS have a close group of friends?
Yes.
Can you just tell us their names, please?
Some of their names are Albertha, Marie, Haley, Sabria.
Had your daughter IS known them for years?
Yes.
And would that include elementary school?
Elementary. And some, I would say, kindergarten.
Would IS go over to any of her friends' homes?
Not really. She visited Sabria before a few times, but she never stayed the night.
In fact, did IS ever stay the night at any of her friends' homes?
No.
Where are the places that IS would stay the night?
My house and her aunt house, Naomi.
Was IS a good student?
Yes.
In fact, did she have straight A's?
Yes, she did.
And was IS preparing for college?
Yes, she was.
Did IS have a cell phone?
Yes.
And did someone in your family help provide that cell phone to her?
Yes.
And who was that?
I think the cell phone that she had, it was her cell phone services through her grandparents.
Okay, that's just all I'm asking right now. And would that be on your side, ma'am, or her father's side?
Her father's side.
And are their names Nancy and Clifford Ware?
Yes, it is.
Now, ma'am, I'm going to draw your attention right now to the early part of December of 2018. Did you find something out pretty shocking about your daughter, IS?
Yes.
What did you find out? And again, try not to go into statements, just what you learned.
That she was with child.
How did you feel after hearing this? Because how old was your daughter at the time?
16.
Okay.
I was a little upset at first because I didn't want her to get in way of college. You know, her dreams got high dreams. She was in between, like, choosing to be a lawyer or a doctor. So I was upset at first, but when I came home from work and first time I felt baby kick, it was out the window. I just wanted to be supportive and be there for her
Did your focus shift at that point?
immediately.
Did you set up a OBGYN appointment for her?
Yes.
And specifically, do you remember what date you learned that your daughter IS was pregnant?
December 3rd.
And was the appointment you set up on December the 13th, 2018?
13th, yes.
And did you go with IS to that appointment?
Yes, I did.
And was the pregnancy confirmed when you were at that appointment?
Yes.
Did you also learn how far along IS was?
Yes.
How far along?
She was about 5 months, 22 weeks.
Now, how did you not know that your daughter was pregnant since she was already 5 months along?
Iyana,
Physical standpoint, I apologize for interrupting.
Iyana, she's tall, she's slim, and then also she wore a lot of hoodies over her.
In fact, was she about 5'8",
Yes.
but quite thin?
Yeah, she's thin.
Was abortion ever an option?
An option?
Abortion.
No, not for me. I didn't, no.
Okay. Was the plan for IS to have the baby?
Yeah, she wanted to.
Did you find out the gender of IS's child?
Yes.
And what was it?
Gender was a girl.
And had she been named?
Yes.
And what was that name?
Hazel Michelle Mobley.
And again, not going into many details of statements, did you ask your daughter who was the father of her child?
Yes.
Did you ever learn who was the father of your child from IS?
No, she gave me a name.
Was that name Jose?
Yes.
Now, did you do some math regarding that approximate 5 months time frame that your daughter was at?
Yes.
And what, if you're subtracting that 22 and a half, 5 months, what date did you get to?
July.
Now, in July of 2018, how old would have been IS?
15.
And shortly before that July 2018 timeframe, did IS and SS go somewhere that summer?
Yes.
Where did they go?
To their grandparents' house.
Would that be Mr. and Mrs. Ware?
Yes.
And do they live out of state?
Yes, they do.
In fact, do they live in Columbus, Georgia?
Yes.
Do you know when SS and IS came back from Georgia?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because it was my mom's birthday.
And what day is your mom's birthday?
July 7th.
Did you and your family have a birthday party for your mother?
Yes.
And was it actually on her birth date?
Yes, it was.
Was it a weekend
Yes.
that year? Now, did SS come home with you after the party?
After the party,
I'm talking about SS.
like to grab clothes from the house.
I'm just asking that, well, let me rephrase my question. Maybe this will be a little bit easier. First, I'm about SS. Did SS come back to your home and stay at your home?
Oh, no.
What about IS?
No.
And where did IS and SS, if they even stayed at the same place, go to?
Their aunt house, Naomi.
And did they stay the night over there?
Yes, they did.
And just to be clear, that's also where the defendant was living.
Yes.
Now, prior to, and we'll get to, again, why we're ultimately here on the 12/19 date, but prior to that date, ma'am, did you accuse someone of being the father of IS's baby prior to her disappearing from Terry Parker High School?
Prior to it, there were some accusations, yes.
Did you make an accusation?
Yes.
And who was that against?
Jonathan.
And is that because of the math time frame that you calculated?
Yes.
At that time frame, I'm just talking about from the July time frame to the December time frame of 2018. I'm talking about personal knowledge, okay, ma'am? Not what you've heard, but just personal knowledge. Were you aware of any boyfriend-girlfriend relationship that IS was in?
No.
Now, kind of going back, thinking about potential boyfriend-girlfriend situations for IS, going back earlier in 2018, did you also learn something involving your daughter and a neighbor?
Yes.
And was that person Kamar Humphrey?
Yes, it was.
And back in March of 2018, how old was your daughter?
15.
And was the neighbor 20 years old?
Yes,
Did you report that to the police?
I did.
And the next day, did you accompany your daughter to have a sexual assault examination?
I did.
Now, after you, again, personal knowledge, after you reported the incident involving your daughter and the neighbor, Kamar Humphrey, did you ever see Kamar Humphrey again?
No, maybe like once. I think he ended up moving.
Did you ever see him talking with your daughter?
No.
And did you ultimately press charges against Kamar Humphrey on behalf of your daughter, IS?
Yes, I started process.
Okay. Now, did your daughter like a particular brand?
Yes.
What brand was that?
It's the Victoria's Secret pink clothing line.
And did she like all the aspects of that brand?
Yes.
And when I say all aspects, I'm just meaning from like the beauty fragrance all the way through undergarments.
Yes.
Okay. And did she have a lot of those items
Yes, she did.
associated with that brand?
Yes.
Now, ma'am, I'm going to draw your attention now to December 19th, 2018. Did that start off as a normal day?
Yes.
Did you go to work?
Yes, I did.
Did your children go to school?
Yes.
And did your children ride the bus?
Yes.
However, did that day end normally?
No.
At some point, did you learn that your daughter, IS, did not ride the bus home?
I did.
Since you were at work, did you call on other family members to assist?
I did.
And were they Margie Mobley and Jametta Mobley?
Yes.
Who, and again, not going into statements, but who told you that IS had not come home on the bus?
SS.
Was that abnormal?
Yes, it was abnormal.
Did you normally have frequent contact with IS?
Yes,
Now, after hearing this, did you try to call her?
I did.
Were you able to reach her?
I was not.
Were you able to leave work?
I did leave work.
Did you go to Terry Parker High School?
Yes, I did.
Did you reach out to friends?
Yes.
Did you contact police?
My sister started it off. She called the cops for me.
Did you speak with the police later on?
Yes.
Did you create flyers?
Yes.
However, did you ever hear from IS?
No.
Where did IS work back in 2018?
At Chick-fil-A.
And did you ultimately obtain her paychecks that she never picked up?
Yes.
Now, did you go through IS's room?
Yes.
Were you trying to find anything and everything to find out why your daughter was not home?
Yes.
Did IS and SS share a bedroom?
They did.
What did you notice was missing from IS's portion of the bedroom?
Some of her underwear, bras, her clothing.
That was from that Victoria's Secret pink brand?
Yes.
Did you let police know?
Yes.
Now, we've been talking a lot about IS. So I'm gonna approach, just give me one moment. Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been marked as stipulation states evidence 22. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
Who is it?
My daughter.
Is this IS?
Yes, it is.
And is this what IS looked like when she never came back in December of 2018?
Yes.
Next, I'm showing you State's Evidence 23. Do you recognize it?
I do.
And can you tell us what is State's Evidence 23?
It's IS,
And what is it showing about IS?
her pregnancy, her stomach.
Can we see that she is pregnant in State's Evidence 23?
Yes.
And is she also wearing her favorite brand?
Yes.
Okay. And in State's Evidence 23, was this photograph taken near the time frame before December 19, 2018?
Yes.
Next, I'm showing you State's Evidence 24. Do you recognize it?
I do.
And what are we looking at in State's Evidence 24?
My granddaughter Hazel.
And is this a sonogram picture?
Yes, it is.
And was this taken on December 13th, 2018?
Yes, it was.
When you were present and the pregnancy was confirmed?
Yes.
Now, ma'am, at some point, did you get contacted by a homicide detective, Billy Abbott?
Yes.
And is that when you learned that the investigation of your daughter had turned into a homicide investigation?
Yes.
And based upon your knowledge, had anyone seen her since December 19, 2018?
No.
Now, ma'am, I'm going to show you, which marked as State's Evidence 25, that's been stipulated into evidence. Ma'am, is your screen up?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I know we got a big screen, but you got a screen right beside you.
Members of the jury, are your TV monitors working? Okay. If at any point they're not working and you think they should be based off what your testimony is, just raise your hand, let me know, so I don't have to keep asking you this.
Now, ma'am, in State's Evidence 25, are we looking at Terry Parker High School?
Yes, we are.
Now, ma'am, we just saw an individual in State's Evidence 25. Who was that person?
IS.
And is that from the last day that she was at school?
Yes, it is.
Now, ma'am, did you ever, or was IS's cell phone ever recovered?
No.
After speaking with Detective Abbott, were you informed that they were going to search the landfill?
Yes.
And were you asked to look at some of the items from the landfill?
So
Some of the items that were found from the landfill later on?
later on,
However, while JSO was at the landfill, were you asked if you could describe any of the Victoria's Secret undergarments?
yes,
Was there a time frame that you and your sister and yourself, and you can clarify which, I believe it was Jametta, or is it Paula?
Paula,
Thank you, I appreciate that. That you, Paula Mobley, and then your daughter IS, did the three of you get matching undergarments from Victoria's Secret?
yes,
And did you describe those undergarments to police?
I did.
And were they for a specific seasonal time frame at Victoria's Secret?
It was.
And was that for Valentine's Day?
Yes, it was.
And have you ultimately had a chance to look at that undergarment that was found from the landfill? The actual item?
Yes,
And because of that item, did you then provide some items to JSO?
yes,
So ma'am, I'm showing you states evidence 45 and 46. Do you recognize them?
I do.
And how do you recognize states evidence 45 and 46?
Because they're
Here, make
mine.
sure, I'll stand up to make sure the microphone.
They were a gift from my sister.
And can you tell us what they are?
They're Victoria's Secret Valentine's Day underwear.
And are these the two items that you provided to JSO?
I did.
Now, were you shown the item, like we talked about, in states evidence 42?
Yes,
And did you recognize states evidence 42?
yes.
What did you recognize states evidence 42 to be?
Iyana's IS underwear.
And that was, again, the matching pair to what you and your sister had.
It is.
Now, Ms. Mobley, just to be clear, these items, 45 and 46, were in your possession, correct?
Yes,
However, states evidence 42 was from the landfill.
yes.
I'm showing you now what's been marked and stipulated as states evidence 43A. Do you recognize it?
Yes,
Now, is it a bra?
yes it is.
Is it from Victoria's Secret?
Yes it is.
And did states evidence 43 from the landfill look similar to a bra that IS had?
Yes,
Now, states 43 is composite, where there's actually 3 bras. However, the only one that you recognize is the first one. Is that fair to say?
yes,
And again, I'll show you just to make sure. But the one that you feel more confident about is 43A?
Yes.
Next, Ms. Mobley, I'm showing you what's been marked and stipulated to as State's Evidence 44. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
Are we looking at another brawl?
Yes.
And is it a brawl from Victoria's Secret?
Yes.
Who do you recognize State's Evidence 44 to be?
IS.
And do you feel confident about State's Evidence 43?
I do.
Now, ma'am, drawing your attention back to your residence, did you find something of interest in IS and SS bedroom,
I did.
and specifically in the closet area?
Yes.
And what were those items?
Pills.
And did you call police?
I did.
Did you have police come out?
Yes.
And did they take photographs?
They did.
And did they collect those items?
They did.
So next I'm going to show you what's been marked in as composite states 18. Now, at the time, were you living at 7834 India Avenue?
Yes.
And that's where IS was living as well?
Yes.
So I'm showing you states 18A. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
My house.
Now, in states 18B, can you tell me what we're looking at?
Yes. IS room.
Now, it looks pretty messy. Tell us about that.
That was my doing. I was going through everything. I did let them know, the police officers, that I was going through everything, so it may be a little messy, but they told me to leave everything alone. But I went through books, shoes, blankets, closets, trying to find anything that could help locate her.
Now, what side of the room would be associated with IS?
D left.
And if you actually just take your finger, you can draw. Do you mind just circling? Yeah, take your finger, you can actually touch the screen. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
And so just to be clear for record purposes, is it fair to say, Ms. Mobley, that you have circled the bed that has hot pink and black bedding?
Yes.
Next in states 18C, is this just another view with some items picked up off the ground?
Yes.
Okay. Now in states evidence 18D, what can we see that she again, her favorite brand?
Pink, Victoria's Secret.
Now in states evidence 18E, can you describe what we're looking at?
Their closet.
When you say the closet, we're still in the bedroom of your daughters?
Yes.
Now, is there a certain item in the closet that caught your attention?
Yes.
Can you please circle that for us?
Well, it's a shoebox.
Here, I'll let you start over, no worries. There you go. You said a shoebox.
Yes.
Is that an Adidas shoebox?
I don't recall the exact shoebox.
That's okay, no worries. What color is the shoebox?
I don't recall the exact shoebox.
That's okay. All right, let's keep looking here. States 18F. Is that a closer view of shoebox?
Yes,
All right. Now I'm showing you states 18G. Do you recognize it?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
Because those are the items I called about.
So is that the shoebox that we're talking
Yes.
about? Does that help refresh your recollection? Now, are these the items that you found within that shoebox?
Yes, I did.
And what were those items?
Parsley and Donquay.
And was there some tissue paper, an old Foot Locker receipt, and then a shoe tag? Is that fair to say, ma'am?
Yes,
Was there anything else that was in that shoebox that's not depicted in states 18I?
no,
And did law enforcement come and take those items?
yes, they did.
Now, again, I'm just asking you a very general question. Did you learn that those pills could be connected to the defendant and your daughter IS?
Yes,
Okay. And is that why you wanted law enforcement to have it?
yes,
Now, did you physically touch those items?
I did.
And based upon that, were you asked to provide your DNA?
Yes,
Okay. And did you willingly provide your DNA?
I did.
Here, I just have one moment. Ms. Mobley, as we sit here today, September the 14th, 2023, have you had contact with your daughter, IS, in any format
No, I haven't.
since December 19th, 2018?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense.
Good morning. Let's start, if we can, with the day that IS went missing. The day that she went missing, you said and you testified that your daughter informed you, SS, that IS did not get on the bus. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did you question SS about where IS might be?
yes,
You did not receive any information as to what her whereabouts were outside of the fact that she did not get on the bus, correct?
correct.
In fact, that continued, that there was no knowledge of where she might be, what could have happened, or anything outside of she just didn't get on the bus. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and that went on for days and weeks, in fact.
yes, from,
After IS went missing, you started searching, correct?
yes,
You were doing whatever you could to try and locate her and find out where she might be. Correct? Yes, sorry.
yes,
Thank you so much. When you were searching, at some point did you come across, or did you try to search for her debit card usage?
yes,
Okay. And did you in fact find that she had used her debit card the day she went missing?
We wasn't sure. It looked like there could have been a transaction, but I don't have direct access to her bank account. We wasn't sure.
Okay. And that bank account, was that one that I believe you testified to that was set up by her grandmother? Okay. And is that Miss Nancy Ware?
Yes, it is.
So she might have a little bit more information as to that credit card usage.
Yes.
As best as you can recall, though, do you recall that credit card potentially being used at a Wendy's?
Yes.
Okay. Did you follow up on that usage at the Wendy's? Did you go to that Wendy's?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you remember if you gave that information to police and asked them to follow up with that potential lead?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if they actually did in fact follow up with that to see if she had been to that Wendy's the day she went missing?
I want to say they looked into it.
Okay. Do you know what side of town that Wendy's was on?
I think the south side.
South side? East south side?
I think, yes.
Okay. Outside of that particular lead that you discovered in looking at her debit card usage, did you search other locations of where she might have gone and where she might have been?
Yes.
Okay. You were kind of doing that on your own, correct? It was just you and your family trying to find her.
Yes.
At that point in time, police weren't really doing the things that you all were doing. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And after she went missing, the police actually listed her as a runaway at that point, according to you.
Yes, I want to say.
Okay. And you're pretty upset with police. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, I was a little upset because I didn't believe that she was a runaway.
Understood. And more specifically, were you upset because they weren't publicizing her being missing in the news and in the media?
I was upset because my daughter, she's pregnant, she's missing, and I didn't get a ton of updates immediately.
Okay. Do you recall actually calling into police and demanding that they do so, that they put her on the news and that they start to publicize that?
I called the sheriff's office and asked them about it.
Okay. And I mean, fair to say you were trying to do anything you could to get them to publicize her being missing. Is that fair to say?
Publicized, yes. I was trying to get updates.
And you had made flyers, you had posted it on social media, you were doing whatever you possibly could to get the fact out that she was missing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the background that you gave as far as where IS would stay. You stated that she was at your house, obviously, she lived with you.
Yes.
She stayed with her Aunt Naomi and her Uncle Jonathan.
Yes.
But she also stayed at her grandparents' house in Georgia, correct?
Yes.
And she spent that whole summer before she went missing in Georgia with them.
Yes, she did.
And the date that you recall her coming back was July 7th of 2018, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and was that all 4 of your kids, or was that just IS and SS?
IS and SS who was out of town.
Okay. So when they came back, you said they came back for your mother's birthday party.
Yes.
And you remember that distinctly and confidently, that's the date.
Yes.
All right. And that, to you, is that the reason why, as you said, that you believe that that's the time period that she conceived the child that she was pregnant with when she went missing?
Yes, you said is that the reason
Why you
repeat it?
believe that's the time period that she conceived the child that she was pregnant with when she went missing?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also believe that she spent a lot of time at her Aunt Naomi's house and her Uncle Jonathan's house, and so that's part of the reason as well?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about Jose. You stated that the person that she told you the father was Jose. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the name she gave me.
But she also gave you several other names.
It was another one that she did.
There were more than 2 names. Is that fair to say that she provided you with?
I don't recall. I think I know of at least 2.
Okay, maybe more?
I don't recall.
When you, at some point, I know you were trying to figure out who these people who she named as the father were, you were actually doing investigation to try and figure out who that might be, correct?
Correct?
Okay, so you were calling people, talking to friends of friends to figure out who it could be.
Yes.
Okay. At some point, did you find and give information to police that you believe that IS and Jose were together in Azalea Ridge Apartments where Willie Sawyer, her father, was living at the time?
I don't recall.
You don't remember giving that information to police
If
whatsoever?
I did, anything that I heard or seen, anything that I heard, I gave to the police. It was a lot of things, like if I hear this, see this, if I see somebody on Facebook or social media making comments, I gave it all to the police. I don't remember every single thing, but I did turn it over to police, anything I thought that may be useful.
Understood. As far as Jose, did you also at that time believe him to be, and I'm quoting, a Hispanic and black male?
Hispanic?
Okay, the black male portion, you don't recall that?
I don't recall.
Okay, you don't recall him being described as being mixed in any way?
I just know she said Puerto Rican.
Okay. And you don't specifically remember anything as it relates to Jose residing in the Azalea Ridge Apartments?
Not that I can recall of.
All right. You talked about your feelings about finding out that IS was pregnant. You said you were upset at first, but, you decided to be supportive of her.
Yes.
When you were upset, I imagine that you were pretty irate to find out that your 15, 16-year-old daughter was pregnant.
I was shocked.
Did you yell at IS about that?
I did not yell at her.
Did you call her any derogatory names?
Not directly, no. If I vented a little bit, it'd probably been my sister, but to be honest, I thought it was a prank.
You talked about finding out that she was pregnant. You believe it was in December.
Yes.
December 3rd specifically, maybe even. Do you recall that as the date?
December 3rd.
And then 10 days later, you set the appointment, and that's when you all confirmed that she was in fact pregnant and 5 months pregnant.
Yes.
Okay. Prior to, well, you mentioned during your direct examination that accusations had been made about who the father was and that you made the accusation. It came from you that it was Johnathan Quiles who was the father.
Yes, I was one. Yes.
I'm sorry, repeat yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that accusation, you say you made that after you find out that she was pregnant?
Yes.
Okay. Had there ever been any accusations prior to that of Johnathan Quiles having any sort of sexual relationship with IS?
You said prior to it?
Prior to IS getting pregnant?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Let's talk about Kamar Humphrey. Do you recall when Kamar Humphrey, how you found out that Kamar Humphrey had sexually battered IS?
Battered?
That he sexually assaulted IS?
That's it, yes.
How did you find that out?
I found out through my son.
Okay. At that point, you did in fact report that to police,
I did.
and you asked police to investigate that.
I did.
You provided them all the information that you could as far as what you knew about that situation.
Yes.
You mentioned, when you were asked actually, whether you had seen him any after that. And you stated that you don't think you did, you think he moved away.
Yes.
Do you remember when he moved away?
No, I think it was like very shortly after the situation where I called the cops on him.
So according to you, Kamar Humphrey was not living as your next door neighbor across the street at the time that IS went missing.
I said, no, at the time she went missing, I don't think he was.
Okay. And did you know him? Did you know him well?
No.
Okay. Had you seen or talked to him before?
Yeah, he used to play basketball outside sometimes with my kids.
Okay. So outside of seeing him playing basketball with your kids outside, you didn't know anything else about him. Had you ever had any personal personal conversations with him?
No. Not no, just when, at the time I called the cops, but outside of that, no.
So you actually confronted him about that situation when you called the cops?
Yes, I asked him about it.
Okay. And after that situation with Mr. Humphrey, isn't it true that accusations that there was a sexual relationship between Johnathan Quiles and IS come out at that time?
After Humphrey,
Yes, around that time period.
I don't recall.
Following that time period and going throughout that entire year, you stated that your kids would continue to spend time at their Aunt Naomi and Uncle Jonathan's house, correct?
So, yes,
As far as Kamar's relationship with IS, outside of that one incident that you found out about and reported to police, were you aware of their relationship, of maintaining like a continuous relationship between them?
no,
And you don't actually know when or if there was any sort of relationship that happened or occurred after that?
not to my knowledge, it wasn't.
All right, I want to talk to you about the items of evidence that you were shown. The first was the underwear, the Valentine's Day underwear as you described them, correct?
Yes,
All right. That and the bras, those bras that you identified or believe belong to IS, you cannot, as you sit here today, say for certain that those items belong to IS.
they look like the items that she have.
Exactly, thank you. They look like items that you knew to have she had in her possession, but as far as knowing that those are hers, you cannot say that.
Well, the underwear, I could definitely say that they look exactly like the ones that she had.
Okay, and that's fine. You can definitely say it looks like the ones she had.
Yes,
Okay. As far as the size, do you know what size those underwear were? The ones that are in evidence right there.
I don't know what size they are.
If I told you they were a large, is that IS's size?
Iyana picked up a little bit of weight with her pregnancy. She did sometimes. That's not her regular size is a large, but if she really wants something like boy shorts or even regular clothes, she will upsize. She didn't care.
All right. When you said she was quite thin, so what would her normal size be?
I don't recall. I have to go back and look at my planner.
You don't know if your child was a small, medium?
It was either, I'm not sure, maybe a medium. I'm not sure.
When those underwear were purchased with you, I believe your sister, you said it was a gift, and for IS, was that when she was pregnant, or was that prior to when she was pregnant that you guys obtained those underwear?
Before she was pregnant.
Okay, would that have been, you said Valentine's Day, would that have been February around Valentine's Day? So that was well before she got pregnant?
Yes,
Okay, so when you say she picked up a little weight, you're talking about during pregnancy, correct?
yes.
Okay, so at that time, she would have been maybe a medium, according to you?
She could have been.
Okay, so if those underwear are a large that you identified, that would not be her size, correct?
I wouldn't say that because she do wear large underwear, boy shorts, and like I said earlier, she do tend to wear larger clothing. She takes my clothing.
All right, let's talk about a couple other things. As far as, well, let me ask you another follow-up question. I apologize. Let me back up just a little bit. You set the appointment to confirm IS's pregnancy, correct?
Yes,
And when you went there, you actually asked them to do a panorama, which would confirm the sex of the baby.
I actually I got a referral to have it done.
Okay, and so the doctor did send that referral out for you all? And that's how you were able to confirm that it was a girl or a boy?
Yes,
Okay. Did you guys do any blood work or anything like that, or was there anything that you requested specifically to find out whom the father may be?
No, but we just took her to find out what the sex of the baby was.
There was nothing else, there's no DNA or anything like that to confirm who it is. So as you sit here today, you do not know who the father of IS's unborn child was.
Can you rephrase?
I'll repeat it. You want me to rephrase or
Yes.
repeat what I said? Okay, let me try again.
Sure.
Okay. You don't have any DNA nor anything else to confirm who the father of IS's unborn child is, correct?
I don't personally have DNA, no.
Okay. Did you know IS to be in any other relationships? I mean, like boyfriend, girlfriend type of relationships during that time period?
No.
And was that something that she would have confided in you about? Is that the type of conversations you all would have?
We had all type of conversations, but I wasn't aware of any boyfriend.
Fair to say that might be something she wouldn't share with you? If it's not, you can say, she would share with me. That's fine if that's how you feel.
I think to a certain extent she may.
All right, I want to talk about the last thing you identified. You said that you had been searching IS and SS's room for any evidence of where she might be, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall finding items? I know you said there were several places that you tried to look and you can't recall all of them. Do you recall specifically locating some address that you believed IS could possibly be at? Do you remember this?
Yes,
Okay. Did you follow up on that yourself?
I did.
Okay. Did that lead to anything as far as there may be someone that she was with at that time?
No.
Okay. As far as you know, that address that you listed and that you found it did belong to a person, correct?
A lady.
Okay. It was a lady and she had children, correct?
Yes.
And those children there, they denied having anything to do with IS's disappearance.
Correct.
Did you provide that information to police?
Yes.
Did they follow up on that?
I don't know.
To your knowledge, no, or you don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. And the other thing that you talked about finding in the very end there was that shoebox. That shoebox, we saw pictures of it, was in the top right-hand corner of the closet that IS and SS shared, correct?
Yes.
And that box had been there since IS had gone missing. Is that fair to say?
I don't know. I was just going through their room. I'm assuming yes.
Okay. It didn't look disturbed in the picture, so I'm asking, did you move that there? Did you put it there? Or was that somehow you found it?
Oh, it was there. I went through the shoebox.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So
Yes, sorry.
where is pictured it, or where you see it in the photo is where you found it.
Yes.
And obviously you'd taken it down and looked in it,
Yes.
but then you returned it back to the spot before police arrived and looked through it. Is that correct?
I don't recall.
You can't recall if you put it back there or not?
I'm not 100% sure. I just remember taking out the box. I pretty much tearing out the room, looking through everything. I just know I think they asked where did I get the items from. I'm not 100% sure. I don't recall.
Fair enough, and that's okay. As far as the pills that were found inside that box, your DNA is on those pills.
Yes.
No one else's DNA is on those pill bottles, as far as you know.
Oh.
You said no? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I know mine's probably on it because I touched it.
Okay. But as far as anyone else's DNA, you're not aware of anybody else's DNA being on those pill bottles?
I don't recall.
Okay. And that was found several months even after IS went missing. Is that fair to say?
I don't recall how long ago it was, like prior, after she went missing.
Okay. Was it quite some time after she went missing, or was it immediately after she went missing?
It wasn't immediately like the next week or so. I don't remember.
Okay. You can't remember if it was weeks or if it had been a couple months or anything like that?
I don't remember.
Okay. And I'm assuming you did report it to police, so the day that you reported it to police would be the day that you found it?
Yes.
Okay. So if law enforcement told us that it was months later, that would probably be the most accurate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And those pill bottles, had you ever seen them before?
No.
Okay. And I assume you asked your other daughter, SS, since it's in her closet, about that?
Yes.
And about their room, they both had beds in that room. I know we couldn't see two beds, but there are two beds in that bedroom photograph that we saw, correct?
Yes.
And I know you circled the one side that was IS's. The side that you can't really see, that's where SS was sleeping.
Yes.
That closet, however, that we saw, that's a shared closet that both of them used.
Yes.
Okay. And so you don't know for certain whether or not those pill bottles belong to SS, if she'd put them there, or if IS had put them there?
I don't recall when I asked her.
And you said that I mean, I know it was a little messy, and you had gone through a lot of stuff. At some point, police told you, don't do anything else, don't touch anything else, leave it as it is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you after that touch anything else in that area?
After they told me not to?
Correct.
No.
Okay, you didn't disturb anything further?
No, I left out the room.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor. Just one other follow-up question. In your search and trying to figure out where IS might have been, do you recall there being a plane ticket found at some point?
I remember something about one, but I don't remember detail. I just remember something about it. I don't know details or anything.
Okay, that sounds familiar to you, though, that there was
I
a
think
plane
I
ticket?
heard one time.
Sorry, I didn't finish the question, so let me just finish it. You do recall hearing something about a plane ticket being found in relation to IS going missing?
I heard something in regards to a plane ticket, but I don't remember.
You don't remember the details
Yes,
of like where it was, at exact dates, those type
I
of
do
things?
not recall.
Understood. Would that have been information that you provided to law enforcement?
I don't recall.
Okay. I don't have anything further, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Mobley, did you ever receive any information that your daughter took a plane flight?
I don't recall.
Were you going to do a DNA test of the baby after it was born?
It would have been more so like Iyana's IS decision.
Did you want to learn who the father was?
Yes,
Because your daughter was underage.
yes,
And so was that something to be addressed once the baby was born?
yes.
During the time frame of between March 2018 and December 2018, did you have any after reporting Kamar Humphrey to the police, did you have any problems with Kamar Humphrey?
Yes, before.
Just from the situation that you called the police on?
Yeah, it was just a little tension between the households.
Did you, though, have any issues with Kamar Humphrey after reporting him to the police?
No,
And the accusation against the defendant being the father of IS's baby was prior to December 19, 2018.
can you repeat that?
No problem. Did you accuse the defendant of fathering your daughter's child prior to IS leaving Terry Parker on that December 19th date?
Yes, it was, yes.
prior to December 19, 2018, had your daughter ever went anywhere without your knowledge?
No,
Had she ever gone away for the night without your knowledge?
no,
Was this completely out of normal?
completely, yes.
No further questions.
Ma'am, good to see you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Date is 12:20. Are you able to call another witness, or is it gonna be 10 minutes?
Your Honor, we do have a short witness that I believe we can call before the
10
lunch
mi-
break.
Within 10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, call your next witness.
Willie Sawyer, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, obviously, this will be our last witness before we take our lunch break. Sir, come on forward.
solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, sir, come over here to your right. Watch your step as you come forward. If you need a glass of water or something, let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate you. If you, if there's an objection made to your testimony, just don't answer the questions while I rule on the objection, and then we'll go from there. That said, state your name, quiet, you're ready.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Good afternoon, actually.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Willie Sawyer, Iyana's father.
And does she share the same last name as you?
Yes.
Okay. Just moving forward, we'll refer to her as IS. So thank you, sir, for telling us, though.
Okay.
Is she your only daughter?
No, I have two daughters.
And does your other daughter have the initials SS?
Yes.
And who is their mother Kim Mobley?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you generally live here in Duval County?
Yes.
And how long you've lived here in Duval County?
Almost all my life, 20-some years, plus years.
And what do you do for a living?
I actually do all types of stuff, handyman.
Do you have, and you talked about your two daughters, do you have other children?
Yes, my stepkids. I have 4.
Now, back in 2018, did your daughters live with you or their mother?
Their mother.
And did you have a good relationship with IS and SS?
Yes.
Now, where do your parents live?
They stay in Columbus, Georgia.
And is that Nancy and Clifford where?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you go visit them?
Often, every now and then.
When you get the time off, probably.
Get the time off.
6 kids can keep you busy, that's for sure. Yes, sir. Now, were there times that you would take your children, including IS and SS, up to Georgia?
Yes.
And in the summer of 2018, did you take your children to Georgia?
Yes.
And when you all were in Georgia, were you all focused on the family?
Pretty much, yes.
And were the activities family-based?
Yes.
Now, at some point, sir, before I get to that, actually, would IS come over and visit you?
Yes.
How often do you think that she would actually stay the night at your house?
It was mostly weekends.
And as she got older, was it a little less?
It was, yeah, a little less.
However, did you maintain communication with her?
No longer than 2 weeks the most.
And so you would not go longer than 2 weeks without speaking to your daughter? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Would that include SS as well?
Yes.
And how would you communicate with IS?
It's both texting and phone calls.
Did you ever use any social media to contact her?
We had social media, but never really on social media. I call her or text her.
Yes, sir. Now, In December of 2018, do you recall the last time you had seen her?
The last time I actually seen her is when she was in Georgia. That was the last.
So that would have been the summertime of 2018?
Yes.
And I think you said that you had communicated her about 2 weeks prior to why we're here today?
Yes.
Now, did you learn the IS was pregnant?
Yes, I did.
Who told you IS was pregnant?
My mother.
Is that Nancy Ware?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity, without going in statements, to speak with IS about it?
No.
Now, how did you find out that IS never came home from school on December 19th, 2018?
My kid's mother and my child actually called me and let me know.
Would that be SS?
Yes.
I just want to make sure you did not hear from, did you hear from IS on that day?
Maya? Yes, I heard from Maya.
And is that a nickname for SS?
Yes.
That's okay. I know it's difficult. You don't refer to your child with initials. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So it's, I know it's odd. So I appreciate your patience with that. Just to be clear, you heard from your daughter SS on that day.
Yes.
Did you hear from IS on that December 19th day?
No.
After you learned that she did not come home from school, did you attempt to contact her?
Yes.
And was that through the telephone?
Yes.
Were you able to?
No.
Did you help look for IS?
Yes.
May I just have one moment? So my last question for you, sir. Have you had any contact with IS since she left Terry Parker High School early on December 19, 2018? When I say contact, sir, I mean letter, email, phone, social media, through a third party. Any contact, Mr. Sawyer, with your daughter?
No.
No further questions.
No, you're fine. Go for it.
Good afternoon, sir. I'll be brief. Second to last question to you was, did you help search for IS after she went missing? And you said you did.
Yes.
In fact, you actually looked where you lived at that time, correct?
Yes.
And can you tell us the name of the apartments that you lived at that time, what they were called?
Azalea Ridge.
Okay, at the Azalea Ridge Apartments, you searched around and talked to people to try and find out if IS had been there, if they'd seen her.
Yes.
Okay. Was that based on information that you received that she had been there?
Not really. I was just looking anywhere.
Did you ever, I'm
The-
sorry,
the
go ahead
school-
and finish.
The school is pretty much right by the apartment, so
Okay, and you're within 5 minutes of the school, Terry Parker School?
yes.
Okay. Did you ever receive information that IS was believed to be at your apartments?
Yes.
Okay. And so you searched before you found that out, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. After you found out that she was believed to be where your apartments were, did you search again? Did you go around and talk to people?
Yes.
Okay. Did you interact with anybody that knew her?
I tried to, but I never got a chance to reach that person.
Okay. So there was a person there that you believe knew IS, but you never did get a hold of them, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that person, to this day, you've never been able to get a hold of them to find out anything?
No.
Okay. Did you provide that information to police?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if police followed up on that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. As far as you know, they didn't, but you're not sure. Is that correct?
Yes.
One moment. You talked about your parents. Your parents, they have a great relationship with your daughters, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you said that the last time you had seen IS in person was when they were spending the summer of 2018 with your parents in Columbus, Georgia.
Yes.
Okay, and you actually were there in Georgia with them, visiting during that time period that they were staying with them.
Yes.
Okay, after that, the only contact you had with them was on the phone or text?
Yes.
Okay. And sir, do you know who Johnathan Quiles is?
I met him one time ever in my life.
Okay,
Yes.
so you've never really known him in any capacity outside of the one, once meeting him?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever heard any allegations, any accusations, or anything along those lines of Johnathan Quiles having a sexual relationship with your daughter, IS?
No.
Just one moment. All right, and I'll just take you back to that time period in the summer of 2018. Were you with them that whole summer, or did you just visit like on the weekends when you were off from work?
Pretty much the whole summer.
Okay, so you spent that summer with them there.
Yes.
And did they have friends and know people in the area?
No, normally when I have my kids, they're pretty much in my eyesight. They don't even leave my side for real.
Understood. Thank you so much, sir. Nothing further.
No further questions, and this witness can be excused by the state. I'm not sure if the defense is okay.
You guys can handle that outside me. Mr. Sawyer, good to see you, sir. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
All right, members of the jury, this is a good time to take our lunch break. It's 12:31. Let's come back at 1:35. We'll commence from there. Please remember, you guys are going to get tired of me saying this, but please remember, do not discuss this case among yourselves or each other. Don't do any independent research. You guys have a nice lunch. Jury's outside our presence. You guys can have a seat. Anything we need to take up before we take our lunch break, first from the state?
Yeah, I can talk to him. Nothing at this time, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Davis for the defense?
Not from the defense, Your Honor.
Mr. Skinner, I'm going to stop believing your time frame if this keeps up.
Yes, sir, I think some this afternoon may be shorter.
Okay,
We have actually several shorter witnesses.
Okay. We'll see. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a nice lunch break.
XLR directly into the camera, I'm getting the same buzzing I was getting with the XLR 3.5 when it was getting plugged into the ATEM. So, yeah. But then why was this harmonic preventing that? Yep. I don't know. Where would you see it? Yeah, with it. Like in the back? Yeah, both are on rear, channel 1 and channel 2. Okay. Mhm. Okay. I think it's the cable. That's weird that the harmonic would be preventing that.
Yeah, that's what makes them the brain expense. That's the only one at the side effect. Ladies? Those are the only ones that like, they're really good for peanut butter or Nutella. I eat Nutella breakfast, but but like milk chocolate. So it's a healthy alternative. Because you can't tell. Yes. You can't tell the difference. Yes. Healthy herb. I've never done that. Where'd you eat that today? Who? Where'd you eat that? I didn't skip lunch. What? I had too much going on. It happens.
Yes, audio select doesn't control both channels are rear. And on the back, got some audio.
I might leave at 4:30 or, just grab something on the way home.
Yeah.
I found a
stop.
new truck at, you ever go to James Wells Park, the food truck over there?
Yeah.
On Monday, good food, 24/7.
I know I've seen it, but I don't know if I've eaten there.
Wings and shrimp.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm plugged in right now.
Oh,
We don't go to the park as much because it's been so hot.
yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
So, we're doing the Jimmy John jumping jacks. Sometimes we go to the prison meat food place. Desert Rider.
Down.
And then sometimes we'll go to,
This is the problem. It's just the monitor.
Red Board or the food trucks over by ViStar.
Is Red Board back open again?
I haven't been there in 2 weeks, so I don't know.
Is that the outdoor one?
The arrow
The outdoor is on the roof,
at
right?
4
Oh,
dots.
you're talking about the hamburger one?
To the left.
That's called,
Burger and bread.
Burger and Board.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's on. He's on the phone. As soon as Kenny gets off, I'll ask him what's going on.
Yeah.
Complain to flashing.
They didn't?
No. Did you hear somebody complain?
I tried both, same thing.
He sent me a text. Flashing again.
That's the first I've heard of it.
Weird.
Nobody's,
Okay, I'll play around with it some more. Yeah, they are.
No, I mean, yeah.
Ooh, okay, I'll probably not be back by 1, but, I'll let you know. Yeah, Sydney knows. She's ready. I mean, you should say hello.
It's not necessary.
So I'm not gonna be there. That's why you look at the calendar. Ooh, okay, whatever, here.
can you give me mute?
Yeah, or they shouldn't be streaming anymore.